Okay, you see this statement here? This is a lying statement, especially the parts that are circled. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because my sister called me a couple days ago to let me know that my mother is very sick and that she needed my help to take care of her while she moved her to Atlanta. And I told my sister, I refuse to help you with my mother until you apologize for the lying statement that you wrote for my mother that said that Vladimir Putin was coming to, and she hung up on me. Apparently, she didn't need my help if she had to do this, if she had to apologize for writing this statement. So I went to God in prayer and I said, Jesus, what should I do? Should I go help my mother? Or, my mother could be at death's door right now, and I asked my sister, what is wrong with my mother? I mean, do you know what's wrong with her? And she said, well, do you want to talk to your mother? And I said, well, is she able to talk? So I talked to my mother and I found out my mother told me she's having breathing difficulties, but the doctors can't figure out what's the matter with her, which makes me suspect it's a Loree McBride induced illness. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and talk now. Before I forget to mention, my sister's name is Sandra Metcalf, and she lives in the Atlanta area. And you may say, why would your sister write that lying statement? Well, it's kind of a long story, but when I went to my son's college, 2-year college graduation in May 2012, Loree McBride was, well, not just Loree McBride, but the Jesuits were harassing my sister, telling her that if she didn't cooperate with them to give me a hard time over coming to see my son's graduation, and that if she didn't treat me like I was crazy, they would harm her and my family. So I wrote my men when I was in Atlanta visiting my sister, and my mother came with me on that trip and let them know. And my sister didn't know about all these famous men in my life. So to prove to my sister that I wasn't crazy, Brent Spiner, Vladimir Putin, Matthew McConaughey, Gerard Butler, Hugh Jackman, they all landed. They landed on my sister's roof. Then they came down to the ground and they knocked on my sister's door and she let them in. And they said, hey, we're here to prove to you that your sister Gail is not crazy. We are her marriage list. And they introduced themselves to her. And they also brought in my son's love interest at that time, who was Brianna Jenkins Schuler. And because my son was suffering from a type of schizophrenia, Jesuit-induced schizophrenia. And he was having trouble sorting fact from fiction because of that. So Jesuits are good at doing this to my family. They do it to my mother, too. Actually, the one who's been getting schizophrenia in my family has been my mother and my son. And it's been kind of off and on. My men try to treat them and get rid of it, but then the Jesuits give it back to them. In fact, anyways, so what happened was my sister found out that I really do have all these famous men in my life. And she became raging with jealousy. I mean, just fiery, mad jealousy. So we have brain and emotion reads that we can do on people. And that's what my men determined. And as a result of that, she became BFF with Loree McBride. Loree McBride started hanging out with my sister. And they both had something in common. They were both jealous of me. See, Loree McBride's jealous of me because the real Brent Spiner doesn't want her. She should only get the inferior Brent Spiner clone. So anyways, so she became jealous of me, and that was her motivation for writing that statement. The result of that statement was that the police came to my door. They took me in handcuffs against my will. They didn't even let me send my men a message. They took my phone from me. So I was gone for a week, and my men didn't know what was going on. But then when I was in the psych ward, Gerard Butler was able to communicate with me brain to brain. He said, Gail, you need to cooperate. And he said, the medicine they want to put you on will cure your yeast infection. He said, so as a result of Gerard Butler, who's a psychiatrist, by the way, I cooperated, decided to take Seroquel. And Jesus made a Romans 8:28 out of my sister's evil. But nevertheless, even though it did result in good, because I got put on Seroquel, that doesn't mean that what my sister did was right. Jesus was just able to make a Romans 8:28 out of the situation because, Jesus in advance knew my sister would do this. And so he arranged in advance to create Seroquel, which he would give me through the psych ward. You see how clever Jesus is? So I've been on Seroquel ever since. My sister's done some other horrible things after this. She's tormented my men. I think it was in June 2014. She actually took over their spaceship. She's been working. She never really officially became a Jesuit unless she's one now. I don't know if she's one now or not. But the problem is she's been BFF with Loree McBride since 2012. And Loree McBride is now the head of the evil Jesuits. So my sister could very well be a Loree McBride Jesuit at this time. And I suspect the reason my men have not communicated with me about anything, I haven't heard from them for about 4 months, is because I believe that my sister and Loree McBride have taken my men to court, and they are claiming that my men are responsible for alienating me from my mother, because they claim that my men are trolls and that they are feeding my delusions and making me not want, because I told my mother started bullying me. This was in right after my stepfather died. I helped her out for about a year, but my sister was encouraging my mother to bully me and to try to set me up and frame me so that she could get me locked away for good. That's what she's trying to do. Jesus finally spoke of us, and Gail, I've been trying to talk to you to not deal with your mother right now, because your mother and sister are trying to do you in, and you need to separate yourself from them. So I finally decided to do this. Jesus actually let a dog bite me to get my attention. He said basically the way how that dog bit you, Jesus said your mother shouldn't be trying to bite the hand that feeds her. And what's really sad is even though my mother has helped me out financially many times in the past, my men actually gave my mother $1 million to try to make it up to her for all the money she's had to spend to take care of me. And my mother ended up letting my sister get control of that money, and my sister decided to encourage my mother to spend it all on spas, and then my mother bought my sister a new car with the money. So, my sister's just being so evil. She's lying to my mother so much. So finally, I told my sister, she went on a big long spiel saying how evil I was, not to be willing to help her out now when my mother's so sick. And I'm really suspicious about why she's so sick. Let me tell you, I don't trust my sister or Loree McBride. And I said, stop it right now. Stop your spiel. I said, if you really loved Mother, you wouldn't lie to her about me and get her all worked up with all these lies. You wouldn't have made that lying statement. You wouldn't be, and finally I said, I tell you what, I will agree to show up if you will apologize for that lying statement that you wrote about me that said Vladimir Putin was coming to get me. And then she hung up on me. Anyways, you guys, my sister Sandra Metcalf is super evil, and I've been praying every day. I'm very worried about my mother. But I hear brain to brain. What I did as soon as I heard how sick my mother was, I sent my men emails, and I said, please look out for my mother. And from what I understand, this is what I've heard brain to brain, and I might make a corrective video later. As a result of me sending them the emails, they transported her to Church of Gail and saved her life. Apparently, if I had done what my sister wanted and gone in to give my mother care while they were trying to transport her to Atlanta, Loree McBride and Sandra were planning on killing her while under my care to frame me with her murder. Let me tell you why I think my mother's so sick, too. Loree McBride's been dropping all these bombs in my town. My mother lives in the same town that I do. The only difference is, and apparently the germs in these bombs really affect people that have my genetic profile. And my mother's, she's got a lot of my genes. So my mother's been getting really sick from these bombs, and my mom doesn't listen to me. She doesn't follow my advice, so she's not doing the Gail commandment. She's not on Seroquel. And so she's gotten so sick from these bombs, which Loree McBride has dropped over my town, which Loree's doing to try to take over my brain completely. The yeast germs in these bombs, I've noticed, have an affinity for the nervous system. So what I think has happened with my mother is that she's gotten so sick from all the germs in these bombs, and she's not on Seroquel, she's not doing the Gail commandments, so she's not getting Jesus's medicine in the air, that it's now become life-threatening. And Loree and my sister got together and said, well, we're not going to stop the bombs, and it's not good that Gail's mother's getting sick from the bombs. So what we're going to do is we're going to set things up so that we can blame Gail for her mother's death. And that's what I think they're doing. In other words, Loree's the one who's killing my mother with these bombs. My mother, I believe, has a serious yeast infection to her brain and nervous system, which is the reason she can't breathe. And Loree, I've noticed that this particular germ increases Loree McBride's ability to use brain control. I believe the reason my mother's not breathing is because Loree is using brain control on my mother to make it so she can't breathe. And I'm really ashamed of and pissed at my sister for going along with this, allowing Loree, cooperating with Loree McBride to harm my mother, even to possibly kill her. So I am really pissed about this. And I believe that by not agreeing to my sister's plan, I saved my mother's life. I'm hearing brain to brain that they brought my mother onto Church of Gail. Brent Spiner had to give her CPR because during using the Star Trek-like transporter technology, Loree McBride was trying to sabotage us, saving my mother's life because she wanted to kill my mother and frame it on me. But I didn't agree to my sister's plan. And so we saved my mother's life. I believe she's now on Church of Gail and recuperating, but I'm really pissed at my sister for cooperating with Loree McBride on this and for trying to frame my mother's murder on me. So I'm exposing her dirty butt. These bombs have been making me really sick. They attack my sleep. They attack my breathing too, but because I'm on Seroquel and I'm doing the Gail commandments, I'm doing 100 times better than my mother. From what I understand, my men have put my mother on Seroquel. And they got her breathing stabilized. But I need to expose my sister Sandra Metcalf because I believe she is guilty of conspiracy to murder my mother, working with Loree McBride using these germ bombs. And she's trying to frame the murder on me, which is why she wanted me to go help her move my mother to Atlanta. Loree was planning on using brain control to kill my mother while she was under my care. So by listening to Jesus in prayer and not agreeing to my sister's terms, I saved my mother's life. But I'm really pissed at my sister right now. Pray for my mother. Pray that she makes a full recovery. I talked to her and I said, Mother, I love you, but I'm sorry, but I cannot go over there as long as you are under Sandra's control. Because I do not trust my sister. I actually think I saved my mother's life by not agreeing to because I think they both agreed they couldn't stop dropping the bombs because they're really trying to kill me and make me sick. So since it was making my mother sick, which was a side effect that that Loree McBride had to deal with, she said, hey, Sandra, why don't we just, since I can't stop dropping these bombs because I got to keep attacking Gail and trying to make her sick and make her go crazy with these germs by attacking her nervous system, even though she does the Gail commandments and Seroquel, which thwarts our bombs, her mother is really sick and might die because of what I'm doing. So we got to make it like it's Gail and her men's fault. So we're going to just, since she's going to die anyways, because of the bombs, why don't we just frame the death on Gail? And that's what they were trying to do, but it didn't work. Anyways, you guys, pray for my mother. I'm praying for her every day. Pray that Loree McBride and my sister get what they deserve. They're evil.